Hello everyone and welcome to the Book Refuge. I hope you are just having, the most fabulous time quarantined ever and are taking this chance to read yourself lots of good books because that's what I'm doing. It's the way I'm staying sane. To be fair, it's the way I usually stay sane, so it's not that much of a difference for me, just being honest. But today, as you can see, I wanted to just bring you something to make your little heart just so happy. And one of the things that does that for me is finding a book or a series that has a swoon-worthy hero, someone who is, almost completely above reproach, or they're just that extra bit of sexy, or they seem like they're a darker sided person, but really they have a heart of gold. They have a soul that just aches to love a woman in the best ways possible, or, another man, because there may or may not be my first ever homosexual love interest on this list. Never thought that would happen. I'm just being honest because I've always been for the hero being saving a woman. I have, and well, I won't spoil it for you. We'll get to him. But either way, this is a list of, I have 7 of my favorite swoon-worthy heroes. What makes a swoon-worthy hero? Well, it's different for everyone. Let's be real. Because there's all different kinds of men and we're all different kinds of people, and it's just, you never know. But I used 3 criteria to decide who I would put on this list. I used that they were honorable, they had a moral code of some kind that they stick to, that they would never betray, and just that part of them that this isn't a sneaky person, this isn't someone who's going around trying to be trickster or this or that. They are, or maybe they've had to do things as a sacrifice. They've had to make tough decisions for those they love, but they put others' happiness above their own. Second, how they treat their love. Are they putting that person, not necessarily up on a pedestal, but do they do their best by that person at every turn? Do they treat that person with respect and kindness and value them? Obviously not cruel or mistreating in any way. And third, the hot factor. How sexy are they? Do they make the panties drop? Do they make the, the little heart swoon? Do they make the heart go pitter-patter? What are they, man? Who are they? So that's enough of dramatics. Let's get into this list. And I got to start with a couple that I never thought I would have on a swoon-worthy hero list. But here we go. So the first one I want to start with is Lev from the book Lev by Aurora Bell. And now this was a surprise to me because this isn't a book that's super well known. This isn't a book where you see this list and you're like, oh, she's gonna have that guy on her list. But as I was going through books that I've read recently, I looked at about the last year, besides a few where you'll see like I've loved them forever. But I wanted to see like who's a new love of mine that whenever I pick up their book or think about it, I just smile. And Lev is this amazing man. And this is tragic because the author wrote this book 5 years ago and the sequels, nothing ever happened with them. They're just hanging out waiting and it's driving me insane. But Lev is the accountant / an enforcer for this dancing club. And he finds this woman trying to make off with his brother's wallet. And this could have got her in a lot of trouble because he, he's a good man. He works for a family that's not the greatest, right? But instead of turning her in or calling the cops or doing something worse than that, he takes this woman in who has actually been homeless for the last 7 years, gives her a home, gives her a job, gives her self-worth, and helps her start rebuilding her life for absolutely no reason other than he's a good person. And oh my gosh, the tension in this novel, the way that him and this woman bond and grow. He also has a daughter that he would do anything for. Give me a single dad, man. That gives me so much joy. So yeah, he was just everything that I wanted. And when I was making this list, I was like, I don't know that he'll stay on this list forever. I don't think he's quite the same as my top 3 on this list, which will always be on my list. But he's amazing, and he's definitely worth a read to experience him. That's what I would say. Okay, next, another new entry to my list is Reich Meadows from the Calloway Sisters / Addicted series. Reich is just so many things. He has a potty mouth. He seems like he'd be super edgy. But he's actually the backbone of this series, in my opinion. From him coming in and trying to help his half-brother get sober, trying to take care of his new friends, trying to be a good man when he comes from a line of people who weren't. This story, his relationship is an age gap, which are some of my favorites. And he also has a long, slow burn relationship because the girl that he's in love with, the time that we meet her and meet him, he's 22 and she's 15. And she makes no secret that she really likes him. And he's like, girl, you're too young. This is illegal and it's not happening. But he still protects her and takes care of her and is very careful about never crossing that line or even really giving her hope that he will until much, much later on. We get to see these two interact from the beginning of this series, but then by the time it gets to them, well, as the tagline says, she's all grown up now. And Reich, we get to experience him over such a long amount of time. You'll see that about a lot of these characters for me. One of the things that makes them be swoon-worthy for me is seeing how they grow up and how they stay being such wonderful men and fierce protectors of their family and their love. And Reich, he is that for me. And I can't wait to reread the series, and I'm also terrified to because it hurts so good. Like, the things they went through and the experiences they have, like, just hurt me so good. So good. Next, I want to talk about Pharoah. So this is the second book in the Like Us series. The first one has Maximoff on the front, so I wanted to grab the one with Pharoah. And this is my male. This is my hero. My swoon-worthy love interest, as I would say. So Pharoah, he is the bodyguard for Maximoff Hale, who Maximoff is the nephew of Reich. These series flow into each other. This series takes place about 15-20 years after we last see Reich and Daisy and all the Calloways. These books are about their kids. And Reich Meadows is the uncle to Maximoff Hale. And Maximoff has always had the hots for Pharoah. Pharoah was his mother's bodyguard for a long time, and now Pharoah gets reassigned to Maximoff, and they both have a serious attraction to each other. Pharoah was Maximoff's first crush, his first, butterflies in his stomach, and now he's going to be in close proximity with him all the time. And he isn't supposed to be involved with his bodyguard. The bodyguards aren't supposed to be involved with their clients, but sometimes the attraction is just too much. And like I said, this starts with, the first book is called Alphas Like Us, and this series is so sexy, like I can't even. It is so wonderful and heartwarming, and like I said, you get to spend a lot of time with these characters. This series, all of the series have, they're about different siblings at different times. So the first 3 books are about these two, and then there's 2 about someone else, and then there's another one that's about them. And I just read this series so fast. I just scooped it all up. It was so good. And Pharoah is just that. He is so caring and dedicated at his job. He loves the entire family. He treasures them. He understands their dynamics in such an amazing way. And he's just all the ooey gooey wonderfulness. And their relationship is so cute. And I love Pharoah. He just came to my mind when I talked about a swoon-worthy hero, because he's so gentle and understanding. Maximoff has a crazy life. He's very famous, and they're famous in kind of that Keeping Up with the Kardashian ways where people are very unkind, and Pharoah is just there to be Maximoff's rock, to be his lover and friend and bodyguard and just a staple in his life. And I love that. I love that kind of man. And I've never crushed so hard for a gay man before, but I am, because I love him. I love him so much. So he just had to be on my list. Like, I had to do it. All right. So now we're getting into, I have one more that is a new edition, a very new edition. I just read this book 4 days ago, and it actually kind of inspired me to make this list again, because I know I've done something about like hot guys in the past at the beginning of my channel, but I recently read Mine Till Midnight, which is the first in the, I think you'd call it the Hathaway series, I think is what it's called. Yeah, the Hathaway's book 1, which this series takes place after the Wallflower series, but before the Ravenels, so this one's like a mid-series or whatever. She has a lot of books. It's cool. But I wanted to start a new series, and I read this one. And this book is about Amelia Hathaway, who is the oldest Hathaway child. There is 5 of them. Their parents have died, and they're a hot mess. Their family is just a hot mess. There's 4 sisters and 1 brother, and the brother, he is not ready to be in charge of this family, and so Amelia's been having to do it. And so they've been staying in town, and her brother goes off binge drinking and sexing up the prostitutes, and she needs to go find him and take him home and snap him out of it, because he holds their destiny in his hands. All these women, like, if he were to F it up, they'd lose everything. And they don't have a lot to lose to begin with. So she stops by a club that Cam Rohan owns. Manages. So this club is run by some other characters in Lisa's world. And he's the manager there. And he's immediately caught off guard and intrigued by this woman who is just like, I'm taking care of business. And Cam is just beautiful and wonderful. And this is also, he is half Romani Gypsy, half Irish. And so I have never read a historical romance with Romani in it before. And holy crap, find me some more. So this book and the next book have the both heroes in this book and the next one are half Romani, half Irish. And holy crap, there's just something about Cam. He has this, he believes in fate. He believes in a lot of his culture, but he also is an outcast from his culture because he is a wealthy man. He's made business investments, and the Romani do not believe in doing that. They believe that all land belongs to everyone and no one. They believe that why do you need to have a steady home and possessions? You just need your family and your tribe, and that's all you need. And Cam isn't living that way. And so though he believes and loves so much of his culture, he's an outcast from that, and he's also an outcast in London society because people don't trust the Romani, the gypsy way of life. They believe that he's a thief and a cheat, and so he's in this place where there's no safe haven for him. But he's so happy and lives such a pleasant life. Like, he's not angry about it or jaded or trying to prove it to the man. He's just living his life. And when he comes across Amelia and he helps her find her brother, they think they won't see each other again. And so he kisses her, which that's probably one of my favorite tropes in historical romance, is the passion of the moment's just so much that you kiss, but then you're like, that was a mistake. I'm never going to see you again. Bye-bye. And then just a couple days later, he's staying at his friend's house in the country, which is the house right next door to theirs. And they run into each other. And all those feelings, all that passion, it wasn't just a fluke. And we get to see Cam decide who he wants and go about getting her in a it was so good. It made me so happy. My toes were curling for the romance, for just the right level of bossiness. Like, there's some things like I would warn, because I know some people won't like it, of his character where he's a little bit pushy. But in the context of what's happening, Amelia has the weight on her shoulders. She doesn't feel like she can take any joy for herself or find any happiness for herself. And so Cam sees that and he's like, nope, you need a break and I'm going to give it to you. And he may be a little bit forceful about that. But they have one of my favorite kind of relationships where it's just fire and sparks and butting two heads together. But Cam just has such joy in it. He doesn't do the typical, like, super frustrated with you, like, my woman's not doing what I want, like, just give in to me, which I can find as sexy sometimes, but it's not what makes a swoon-worthy hero to me. Cam is confident in who he is and what he offers, and he sees a woman that is his stopping place. That's what the Romani call it. When you find a place that you don't want to move on from, it's your stopping place. And he finds Amelia, and now he realizes why he doesn't want to roam the world homeless, because she's his home. And I love him. I love him so much, and I think he's just perfect in every way. And you will fall in love with the whole family in this series. It's one of those historical romance series where they very much set up other relationships as it's going. So, like, for the second book, you already know, like, who that couple is. Like, they are already interacting with each other. And I just love it. And, like, I have 2 more books to read in this series because I was missing the 4th one. I had the other 4, but I was missing the 4th one. And I would just skip to the 5th one because you don't, like, have to read this series in order, but like you kind of do because we're going through them in their age order. And so for me to like skip, I don't want to skip. But Cam is so dreamy. I love him. And I've never read his kind of character in a historical romance before. And I love him. I love him. I love him so much. So he is on my series. All right. So now we're at my top 3. And these 3 gentlemen have been on my list for a long time, so they probably won't surprise you. And these are actually ranked. The other ones are just kind of, because they're newer, so I don't know where they'll sit forever. But number 3 is Michael Hosea from Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. I'm not as afraid to talk about this as I'm never afraid to talk about it, but I don't talk about this book as much. But I know a lot of you who watch my channel. I have some older viewers who you're here because I read a ton of romance, and so do you. And I always get someone who's so happy that I bring up Redeeming Love. And as I'm definitely not afraid to share, I'm a Christian. I know it'd be hard to believe with some of the books that I read. I know. The Lord loves me anyway. It's okay. But this book is amazing. And there's a man in here named Michael Hosea who definitely represents Hosea from the Bible. And if you don't know the story of Hosea from the Bible, it's about a prophet who God tells him to go marry a prostitute. And then as she continues to leave him over and over again, actually having children with other men, so giving him bastards instead of his own children, God keeps sending him back to bring her back and love her. And God showing, hey, that's what I'm going to do for my people. I'm always going to love you no matter what you do. Anyway, you don't have to know that story. That was Bible time with Jenn. However, this story is a representation of that. Michael told God that he would marry whoever God asked him to. And Michael is walking by a brothel and he sees a girl going by Angel. And God tells him she's the one. And so he goes in and asks to see her, pays the money to spend an hour with her, and just talks with her. And Angel is like, has long since given up hoping for a Prince Charming or a hero to save her. And she's been used for her looks, for her face and her body, and nothing else since she was a child. And she doesn't believe in happy endings or love or goodness anymore. And so Michael has a tough job ahead of him, and it's not what he would have asked for, but he did tell God he would do what he said. And so seeing Michael not understand why, but obey was, number one, very powerful. But also, he isn't just doing this just because. He wanted a wife and he wanted a family, and he wants to have that with Angel. And the way he goes about peacefully wooing this woman, gently, kindly, but with a deep passion, is heart-wrenchingly beautiful. And if you are a Christian, you will completely get the parallels, and it will break you into a puddle. And even if you're not, this is a beautiful love story. It will drive you insane, bring you to the brink of insanity, and then pull you back. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And Michael, there isn't anyone more swoon-worthy of him than me, and there's nothing fantastical happening in this. This is gut-wrenchingly raw and real, if not like a little bit fantastical, because of, this is like Pretty Woman, but the Bible version, and it's hard to believe. But this book is a classic. It is wonderful. It is everything, and Michael Hosea will always be on my list of swoon-worthy heroes, because he's a real hero, and he's not imagination or magic. Anyway, it's good. Enough gush. Okay, top 2. And if you don't know who number 1 is, you just haven't been around very long. All right, number 2 is Rhys from Akamath, from the ACOTAR series, which I'm currently rereading. You will have maybe seen, I did put up my first video for ACOTAR where I did a deep dive into the characters and analyzing the series, and we're going to be doing that for all of the books in the series, and hopefully all the books of Sarah J. Maas. So here we go. Akamath. Rhys. Rhys is a complex, beautiful, seductive, passionate, faithful High Lord of the Night Court. And I just love him so much. And if you've only ever read ACOTAR, you wouldn't understand, because he's kind of a douche in there. And he's probably the one of all of these that, people would be mad that I would choose. But this man and the choices that he makes, the way that he is continually self-sacrificing, this man doesn't do a single thing for himself. And once you know that, once you see that as a character, when you go back and read this series, you see everything he's doing and the hard choices that he's making and the way that he loves this woman. But not just his woman, his court, his family, his inner circle. The way that he so passionately loves them is so beautiful, and the way that he will fight anything to his last breath is so beautiful. I love it so much, and I really just... Rhys is amazing. He's so amazing. He's so swoon-worthy. He's that flirty, sexy, mysterious type. He's that, you're sad, I'm gonna make you happy, even if that means making you mad first. I am actually rereading this one right now. I'm taking a break because I'm doing my romance weekend, which this is romance too. So if I finish my TBR, I'll be reading this some more. But just how he... I don't know. I love how Sarah J. Maas built him. I love that he has so many layers, and I just think that every choice he makes is for others, and his love for Pharoah is so beautiful and inspiring to me, and it makes me so happy. And I know that a lot of Sarah's love interests, she dedicates most of these books to her husband, and they have such a beautiful relationship, and I like to think that there's little pieces of them in this, and it makes me really happy. Okay, there doesn't even need to be a drum roll. We all know who my most swoon-worthy hero is, and it's Jamie Alexander Malcolm Mackenzie Fraser from the Outlander series saga. Beautiful creation by Diana Gabaldon. And, you know, if you've been around my channel at all, you'll know that I have a passionate love for this book series and for this character. If you don't know for some reason, I have an entire Outlander playlist where I have reviewed all of these books 1 through 6 and all of the seasons of the TV show, including the current one. But anyway, enough of a plug. There is just something about James Fraser that will forever keep him as the king of men. And some of it is the way that Diana is able to take this man from young adulthood, like he's 22 when we meet him, through, I think we're at like 64 or 5 where we are right now. And just how he, again, there's a pattern, like he's always putting other needs before his own, his family, his clan, his people, his country, but also how he tenderly loves his wife. And if you've ever got stuck in the first few books of this series where there's a lot of back and forth and time traveling and difficult situations, I could see why it would be hard for you to push onward. But I'm telling you, the man you get to know, especially from book 4 onward, is the most perfectly well-rounded man that I've ever read. And yes, there's aspects of him that are fantastical, because even though this isn't a full-on fantasy, like there is fantastical elements in this series, like there just is. This isn't a straight up historical. There is bits and bobs of magic spread throughout, sometimes when it's a little bit plot convenient, but hey, that's how life goes. And he is well-rounded. Like he gets angry, he makes mistakes, he hurts people's feelings, but he owns up to his mistakes. He loves his family beyond all measure. He will fight for their honor. He will be that, you know, strong man between you and any danger you will face. And I love him. I love him. I wish he were a real person, but yet I don't, because he wouldn't belong to me, even if he was. But Diana has been able to make this character seem so real that it feels like I'm reading the chronicles of his life and not just, you know, stories. And I don't know of a higher compliment to say than that. I don't know. I love him. Okay, so this video ended up being way longer than I meant it to be, but you know what? It felt good, because heroes, they just make me happy, and it brings me so much joy to read a book where I know this person is trying to be honorable and is going to do right by the people he loves. I read a couple historical romances lately where the love story was hot, but like the man isn't the kind of man that I want. And so then you're just kind of like, well, he's sexy, but he's not someone I would want to be friends with, you know? And I like a bad boy story. I like a good dark romance, but there's something about a wholesome story where you know that these two people, they're going to face their challenges, but they're going to end up together, and it's going to be beautiful. And that's why I read romance. You know, that's why I read 95% romance, and it's fine with me. But thank you so much for watching. I put up 3 to 4 videos a week, so make sure you subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I upload. I love you all so much, and I'll see you next time.